Last week, you remember, we talked about generosity and whether we are generous people. And we realized that it is God moving in our hearts that makes us generous people. This week, I want to talk about a more practical thing. How much should we give? How much is enough? I'm sure we all think about that. We all think about what God has blessed us with and how much we have financially. And then when we sit down to give, whether it's to the church or to another charity, we often wonder, how much exactly should I give? How much is enough? The people in Ezra, the book of Ezra, when they arrived to Jerusalem to see the destroyed city, you remember we said that it had been 70 years since the temple had been burned and the city walls had been torn down and the city had been destroyed. They arrived there 70 years later, for over 42,000 of them, to rebuild the city. Keep in mind that most of them had never seen it before. 70 years had passed. Very few of them could remember the Temple of Solomon and its magnificence. Very few of them could remember the city at all. But they had heard stories from their fathers and their mothers and their grandparents and their great-grandparents about the temple, about the city of Jerusalem. And they were filled with a passion to give, to go back and to rebuild the temple, to go back and rebuild the city, to go back so they could worship their Lord God. And it says that the people gave free will offerings. You remember last week we talked about the concept of the free will offering and how it's centuries old. The ability to give freely what you choose to give. Verse 69 is an important one that I want us to focus in on today. It says that they gave accordingly to their ability. They gave according to their ability. It wasn't a tax. No one came to them. Ezra didn't come to them and say, well, you have this much money. You are required to give this much. He didn't count the people and say, it's a head tax and everyone has to give this amount. It wasn't a set amount. It was freely given, and it was requested according to their ability. I think that is a key term in any kind of giving, whether it's to your children, to your church, or to your favorite school. It should always be according to our ability. Ministry does not happen without money. Not in any situation, not in any place, whether it's at Doorstep, the rescue mission, whether it's here at First Baptist, whether it's overseas, wherever it is, ministry does not happen without money. Our recent backpack bash, how many of you got to come out to the parking lot and got to volunteer or got to see the backpack bash? Anybody? Raise your hands up high. We had about 600 backpacks with school supplies that were given out to children. We had triple that amount of people here that day. There were probably over 2,000 people here that day to receive backpacks, to receive free haircuts, St. Francis came out and partnered with us and gave out sports physicals. The fire department was here, the police department. They were showing off the vehicles and educating children about safety. It was a fabulous day, and it was a real ministry opportunity to children. I was astounded by the parents that came to me afterwards, and some of them in tears, thanking us for the fact that they didn't know how they would buy school supplies for their children, or they didn't know how they would find the money to have their haircut, or even for the sports physical. They were so grateful. Ministry doesn't happen without money. One of the fascinating things to me is when this month's finance pages came in, someone on the committee, the finance committee looked at the amount for the backpack bash, and they said, wow, that cost a lot of money. And I said, yeah, because we did a lot of ministry. The byproduct of giving is joy. That's the phrase I want you to take home with you today. That the byproduct of giving is joy. That day when we gave of our finances, when we gave of our time, we were overwhelmed with the joy that the families experienced. And all of us who participated, those of you who were there, I think you could get up here and share testimonies of the same thing that I am, of how it felt to be able to help people experience this. The video that we saw that I mentioned earlier is one of my favorite. How many of you have seen it before? Only a few of you. I didn't think we had seen it in this service before. It's one of my favorite because it really explains where offerings do go. Where was the first place that the man took the offering plate? Where was it? What did he do first? Even before the children. He put the light sockets in. He turned the lights on, the utilities all over the building. Some of our offering each week, each month goes to utilities. It seems like a dull place, but we would be sitting here worshiping by candlelight if we didn't have the utilities. And on those Sundays when it's 100 degrees out, I don't think any of you'd even be here worshiping with me if it wasn't for our utilities. Take a guess how much our utility electric bill, just our electric bill, was in the month of August. We just received it. I heard a 5 and a 10. You guys are much more knowledgeable here. In some of the other services, somebody guessed $1,000 or $2,000. It was actually almost $6,000 for 1 month of August to keep us all cool and keep the lights on. He went from the electricity and the utilities, then he went to where? Somebody mentioned it already. The Sunday school rooms, because some of our finances goes for supplies, for resources. He gave the children paper and crayons and markers, and the list goes on and on. The hymns that you have, the hymn books, the choir robes, the music, the list of supplies and resources that the church uses and serves people with is endless. A couple of weeks ago, we were able, through Faith Forest, Robin and the teachers down there gave out Bibles. We had Promotion Sunday, and they gave out Bibles to the third graders. And every year we do that. I can remember back to my childhood, it was a long time ago, when I received my first Bible at my church. It was a special moment. How many of you ever received a Bible from your church? Wasn't that special? I can remember how my own Bible. Some of our finances go to provide that same kind of joy in children today. Where did he go next? He went outside to the homeless man. Do you remember? And he provided him with a blanket. He provided him with food. I love the part where he pours the chicken soup out of the plate. We do that same thing here. We provide ministry and mission through Doorstep, through the Food Community Pantry. We provide to the Topeka Rescue Mission. The ladies are constantly making quilts and sending over supplies to the rescue mission. Some of our finances go to provide those kind of services. We have a fellowship fund here at the church. It goes to help people with their electric bills or their medical bills, or just this last week we had a lady call in and she needed to take her autistic daughter over to KU Med, and she had enough gas to get there. She didn't have enough gas to get back. Some of your money goes for that kind of ministry. Where did he go after the homeless man? He went clear overseas to missions, and a lot of your money goes overseas to missions. In this example, he provided Bibles in their own language to the Burmese people there in the movie. Some of ours does exactly that same thing. We help people globally all around the world. In fact, last year, $43,000 we gave to overseas missions. Money and ministry go hand in hand. But it's not enough to give just money. That's the easy part. Some people like to sit back and just give money. If you look at the rest of the story in Ezra, not only did they give their free will offerings, but they gave of themselves. If you look at the story, it says that they hired a few people. They hired masons and they hired carpenters. But they also asked everyone 20 years of age and older to help in the building, the rebuilding of the temple, to help in the supervising of the temple. So the other thing I want you to realize is not only does ministry require money, but ministry requires volunteers or ministers, and not just the paid professional staff ministers, but all of us as ministers. Thursday, the staff, your staff, all went down to Doorstep. I had never been there myself, and so I wanted to see what it was like, and I did get to see. It was amazing to see the whole basement is given over to the food storage and the piles of food. Walter By, who is our member here, volunteers there, and he showed us the food area and all the stacks. I mean, stacks and stacks of tuna fish and peanut butter and dried pasta and all the different areas. By the way, Walter, that was the cleanest part of the building. It was beautiful. You do a good job there. We also got to see the clothing room where they sort, those bags of clothing that you bring to donate. They have an area where they sort them and they put them in sizes, and people are allowed to come once a week and just to freely choose clothes. We got to see the bread room. There's a whole room devoted to bread and day-old bread that they get from the bakeries in town that donate it. We went there to volunteer. We thought we'd be folding clothes or doing something like that. We actually got to spend the morning cleaning. And they were getting ready to paint offices. And so the 6 of us went in. We humbly took buckets and water and soap, and we washed down all the walls of 3 office rooms. We washed the walls and the woodwork, and then we taped it to get ready for the painters. We washed 4 bathrooms, upstairs and downstairs. I had Steve and Joe, our janitors, and so I had great cleaning help, and we washed the back hallway, which looked like it hadn't been cleaned in 20 years. They found out that we had some electrical help, so we cleaned all of the fluorescent lights. We even cleaned skylights and the front door, and we finished up by scrubbing their pop machine. I tell you all that to tell you that when we got done, it felt good. The people were so appreciative. They were so amazed. The building was noticeably cleaner, but we felt joy because we had made a difference. The byproduct of giving is joy. I'm not here to preach to you just to tell you, give me more money, give me more of your time. I am telling you that you will feel more joy, that the byproduct is joy. There are lots of opportunities to volunteer in this community. There are lots of opportunities to volunteer here in the church. We have one person that comes in and she helps with payroll. We have other people that come in and they simply fold and stuff envelopes. We have people who volunteer in our nursery. Some people, God has gifted you with a particular skill, and only you know what that is. Your skill may be singing in the choir, and we have wonderful volunteers in the choir. Your skill may be playing handbells, and they, by the way, are still looking for some people to play handbells. So if you're interested, see Sharon or Joan. We have wonderful people who are so good with children. And you saw some pictures in the video of the children's department. How many of you have ever been down to Faith Forest to help volunteer? Raise your hand. I know some of you do summer volunteering. Put your hands up higher. You should be so proud of that you help in the children's department. There is an opportunity to serve here in the church. Corey earlier mentioned Operation Inasmuch. It's a fancy name to say that simply on the last Saturday of this month, we will gather here at the church for just a couple of hours, and we will do things like cut bandages that will go to the Congo and to Haiti. We will tie quilts that will go to the rescue mission. We will cut quilt blocks that will go to children's neighborhood centers in Indiana and in Oklahoma. We will do simple things around the church like polish the pew that you're sitting on or pull weeds. There is something for everyone. Sometimes we go out and we help elderly people with their yard work. And if you have yard work and you fit that category, please see one of the pastors. We're looking for people to serve this year. Ministry is about money, yes, but it is also about your time, your talent, the skills that you can provide for other people. You may be sitting there saying, oh, I've done all that. I'm older now and I'm tired. I can't really do any of that. One of the most important volunteer positions is the position of prayer. The position of prayer. If you are willing to be a prayer volunteer, I would love to give you a list of the people of this congregation, and you could simply sit by your phone or by your bed or anywhere in your house and just go through the list and pray for people. Prayer changes things. We not only have volunteers here, but we have volunteers all around the community. We heard Wednesday night about a program where there are 2 preschools where you can go and read with the children. Maybe you'd like to do something like that. Jardine, the middle school that's right here by us, has a reading program where you can help and work with the students in their reading, middle school. Let's Help, the hospitals, the Children's Discovery Center, the library. The list goes on and on of places that you might volunteer. You know what? Let me just take a moment. We did this last service. Who has a place that they volunteer in the community? Tell me the names. Doorstep, we know. Meals on Wheels. Gray-haired legislature. Okay, that's a new one for me. The Boy Scouts. CASA, okay. The Humane Society. You know, I live by the new one that just opened up recently. I'm a couple of blocks down from there. And I woke up one Saturday morning, I look out my window, and there was 12 people, and they all had a dog, and they were all walking the dogs. What else? We're done with the dogs after that? That was nothing left? Upward basketball, absolutely. We talked about the rescue mission. The Kappa Foundation. Jump, the New Justice and Unity Ministry. Others? Zoo. The zoo. Has anybody ever volunteered there? We go out to Boo in the zoo. Snack Pack, the Harvesters. You know, our Harvester program we started last year, is to help the children. They get their lunches at school, but over the weekend they don't have any food. Last year we did 1 elementary school. This year we're going to increase it and do 2 elementary schools. And that is just a matter of we're looking for volunteers that will come in and help pick up the backpacks, help stuff the backpacks, and return them to the school. Simple program, but the children have food over the weekend. Others? We're an active group, but you know what? We could do more. And the key is always for it to be according to our ability. To find something that you're passionate about, something that you really want to do and really want to help with. You know, in the story today, when they got all finished and they collected the money and they worked diligently to do it, they volunteered and they got the foundation laid, the scripture says there was great music and praise and singing. The foundation was in place. Some wept for joy because the byproduct of giving is joy. And they did it together. They did it together. And I would suggest to you today that together we can accomplish great things at First Baptist Church. We are already accomplishing great things at First Baptist Church, but we could do more. I would ask you this week to really think about how you use your time, the skills that God has gifted you with, and the finances, the treasure that you have been given. How do you use them according to your ability for God's kingdom? It is truly more blessed to give than receive. Would you pray with me?